We must have some technical difficulties, so we're going to try this again. So welcome everybody to Renew Recovery Community. I'm glad you're checking in with us here. I'm in the warmth of my office, looking out the window and looking at the beautiful snow outside. I'm hoping you're home, safe at home, and you've had a great day enjoying God's beauty outside. But unless you just really wanted to get out in it, not so much. Tonight we're going to start a series. Gabe was going to speak tonight, but we'll push that a little later. But some of the things we talked about last week was doing a daily inventory, and it kind of responds or goes right along with what we're going to talk about tonight. And we're going to talk about start a series tonight that's about an area that unfortunately we don't like to think about. We certainly don't like to talk about it. But we're going to talk about it because it's really important that we talk about it. And that's the area of relapse. And one of the greatest fears of individuals, especially those that are new in recovery, but not only those that are new in recovery, but those also that have been in recovery for a while, is that they'll relapse. It's common, unfortunately. And some people expect it. For those who are trying to overcome any type of addiction, most people think that relapse is very quick, that it's almost instantaneous. But there's news: it's not. It's not instantaneous. It happens over a period of time. Relapse is a process. It starts in subtle ways, and it increasingly gets worse. But in order to understand relapse, we've got to understand the phases that lead up to the full-blown relapse. And relapse happens in three phases. We're going to talk about those. We'll break them apart a little bit. Like I said, or I looked over and saw a magnifying glass. I guess we'll take a little closer look at relapse and the three phases or stages that move us to a full-blown relapse. Those stages are: number one is emotional, number two is mental, and the third, where we actually relapse, is the physical phase. And being aware of those phases, what is in each one, maybe can help us to stop before we get into a full-blown relapse. Let's talk about the emotional relapse part. That's the first phase. And during that stage, we may not actively be thinking about drugs or alcohol or any of the addictive behaviors that we've done in the past. However, our emotions and our behaviors may be setting us up for a fall as we go along. But there's some warning signs. And I think that's the things that we need to be looking for. What are the warning signs that we need to recognize before we get into a different phase, before it starts to go forward? There are some things that you may have seen yourself do, or you may have seen others that you love experience as we start moving through this emotional phase of relapse. Some of those are this: bottling up your emotions, not going to your recovery support groups anymore, not going to those meetings, isolating yourselves from peers or family. Does this start to sound familiar? When we were in full-blown addiction, we isolated ourselves. We withdrew. We got into ourselves in our own little shell. When we do those kind of things, we start doing some things that, like poor eating habits, poor sleeping habits. Well, our emotions affect those. We need to be aware of that. We may be going to our meetings, but we stop sharing. Again, we kind of put ourselves into a shell. We isolate ourselves. We sometimes see ourselves or others start to focus on everybody else and their problems instead of our own. When we do that, it causes us not to be able to handle and manage effectively our own anxiety, our own anger, or any of the other emotional problems in a very healthy way. You will start to see or start to be intolerant of others and situations. Anytime somebody says something to you, You become very defensive. We have severe mood swings from happy to sad to crying to laughing and all over the board. One of the most important things that we see or we start to experience ourselves is we stop asking for help. And that's a red flag, guys. When you see something or you feel something and you don't ask for help, that's a real red flag to you. When we do that, we are taking very, typically, we start taking very poor self-care of ourselves emotionally and physically. Now think about it. When we start to withdraw, when we start to head in the wrong direction, I know you've seen it or you've watched yourself. If you even recognize that, your appearance even changes. We don't care as much about how we look, how we dress, how we act. It just changes. We stop having fun, at least what we might call sober fun. We stop taking time for ourselves. So we've said some of these things that are warning signs, signals, red flags. And you may be asking yourself, well, okay, how can I prevent or stop getting stuck in this first stage, this emotional relapse phase? In order to know that, we've got to understand some things about ourselves. So we will have to ask ourselves some questions. We have to spend some time in self-reflection. You know, I talk a lot at our meetings about journaling, about writing it down. That's so important because we can go back and we can look at it, refer back to it, and see how we're doing as we go along. So here's some questions we may want to ask ourselves as we go along. Are we being good to ourselves? Pretty simple. Are you treating yourself nicely? If so, how? What are you doing for yourself? How are you having safe, positive fun? List them. List those down there. Are you putting time aside for yourself? Or are you getting caught up in the life and the drama of others? You know, so many of us love to get in everybody else's business, to get in their life. And we need to really spend time in our own life. What are we doing with our time? What are you doing? Put it down on paper. What are you actually doing with your time? Are you using any of the coping skills that you've been learning through your recovery? Write them down. What are you using? You know, many of us go to recovery programs, and I think every program is a little different. There's no one do-it-all, best-all program. But we gain things from each place we go. So what are you adding to your recovery program, your personal recovery program, that helps you to stay in a safe place emotionally and physically? Are you addressing your emotions? Are you addressing your feelings and your thoughts? I hope so. If so, how? Write it down. If you're not, why aren't you? Are you attending and participating in recovery support groups? Which ones? How many? How often are you going? If you are going, are you participating? It's important. Life is stressful. We say that so many times, that the world is a stressful place. So how are you managing daily with the stressors within your life? What are you doing for self-care and your behaviors now compared to when you were in active addiction? What's similar now and what has changed? These are important things. There are times when I feel very anxious, and I'm sure you do too, because as I said, it's a pretty stressful world. So when we feel anxious, I've told you this before, begin those deep breathing techniques. Yeah, I know you're going to say, man, here we go. We're going to some of that yoga stuff. These are some things, some techniques I learned when I was instructing yoga. I tell you all the time, stop what you're doing. Just stop and just breathe. In yoga, we did a practice called a ujjayi breath, ujjayi breathing. And that's breathing through your nose and out of your mouth. Now, there's a technique to it. There's a lot of mess going on outside of us, and even more mess going on inside of our brain. So I call it mind chatter. So we've got to try to lose that. And you can't really look around, because if you're an ADD guy like me, I'm, squirrel. So you have to kind of close your eyes, take a breath in, breathe out through your mouth, in through the nose, out through your mouth, and relax your shoulders. And just do that 5, 10 times. Each time breathing in deeper, exhaling completely, releasing all that stress as you go, letting it go. And you're going to start to feel a little bit better. You're going to feel a little easier about yourself. We all go through denial. Denial is extremely common in this emotional relapse phase. And if we've been in this emotional relapse phase for any period of time, we begin to just feel off, feel a little different. We feel a little uncomfortable. Excuse me, we feel a little uneasy. You just know something's not right. And when that happens, we get those feelings of discontent, of restlessness, of irritability. But you know what happens? Because of our fear of failure, because of our fear of judgment, many of us don't share our feelings. We won't tell anybody. We try to hold it in. We try to control it ourselves. We think we can handle this. And unfortunately, we don't do a very good job. Please understand this, that how you're feeling is critical at this stage. Knowing and being honest about how you're feeling is very critical at this stage. And if we don't begin to practice self-care, suddenly we're going to become exhausted. And when we become exhausted, we will want to escape to something. Unfortunately, sometimes that something is our addictive behavior, and that's not good. If we choose not to work on any signs or symptoms of the emotional stage, these things that we've talked about, the likelihood is increased that we will transition to the second stage of relapse, and that is called the mental stage. And the mental stage is, let's think of it as a war going on in our mind. There'll be a part of your mind that is saying, hey, go back to what you were doing. That made you feel good, even though that's a lie. For momentary. That was just momentary, and after it, you felt awful. But there's a part of your mind saying, yes, go to that. The other part of your mind is going, no, do not do that. You know what happened the last time you do that. Don't do that. So it's a tug of war going on within your mind. And just like with emotional relapse, in the mental relapse, there are some red flags, some warning signs that you need to be aware of. And those include cravings, which could be physical or psychological urges to do the addictive behavior that you did before, whatever that is. It's not just always alcohol. It's not just always drugs. It may be half a gallon of Mayfield's ice cream. It may be gambling again. It may be whatever. You understand? It can be any addictive behavior. Another thing that can happen as a red flag is thinking about people, places, and things that were associated with when you were using. We like to talk about it in recovery as your old playmates and your old playgrounds. We start thinking about that again. Or we start hanging out with those old playmates or around those playgrounds. We think, I'll be fine. I'm stronger. I can be around those folks. Chances are, however, the more you're around them, the more you're going to end up being tempted to be like them. We start bargaining. What do you mean we're bargaining? Well, I mean, in bargaining, individuals start to think of scenarios where it's going to be okay. It would be acceptable to do those things again. A common example, so that you would understand what I'm talking about. Common examples, we bargain and say, well, we're having a family get together on Thanksgiving or Christmas or New Year's, and I'll just do it then. I'll just have one drink. I'll only have half a pill. I'll only eat this much. And before we know that, one time is two, is three, and then full blown, and we're back into it. Bargaining can also be in the form of switching one addictive behavior or substance for another. Many of us have seen that. We talk about that a lot because I see a lot of people that become obsessed. They're stopping one addictive behavior, and maybe they become obsessed with being in the gym, and they live there. You might as well put a bed in there, and that's all they can think about. They're so laser focused on it. I think anything to excess can be a problem. Another red flag is lying. When we were in full-blown addiction, we didn't know the truth from a lie because we lied so much. So lying is a problem. Thinking of schemes. In the mental phase, we start building of schemes of how we're going to be able to use. We look for those relapse opportunities. That would be like hanging out with those old people. We start missing our recovery meetings. We don't communicate with our recovery friends and brothers and sisters anymore. Then it starts moving to, actually imagining using again or fantasizing about using, even to the point of planning the actual relapse that we're going to do again. The more this goes on, the harder it is to make the right choices. And the closer we become to full-blown relapse again. These are some of the things that we can do. We're going to go forward now and talk about some of the things that we could do that might help us keep the train on the tracks and keep it from jumping the tracks. First thing, use our brains. Play the movie over in your head. What do you mean by that, Roger? Well, I mean, think about the consequences of what will happen, whether it's physical or psychological or any other way, and decide, is it really worth it? Do we want to go back to where we were? Think through the process. That takes a little time. But that time that we can do, just take a moment. Remember, just breathe. During that breathing, think through, do I really want to go back to where I was? Think through the whole process. Talk to somebody you trust. That's the most important thing that I think you can do. It can be a great help to share your thoughts and your feelings with a trusted friend, with a family member that loves you, with a member of your support group, your sponsor, your accountability partner, your spiritual guide. As we begin to share our thoughts and feelings, magically, those urges start to dissipate and go away. They won't feel quite as overwhelming, and another important thing is we won't feel quite so alone. And that's important because we don't need to be alone during our journey. I tell you this all over and over and over, we cannot do recovery alone. We should not do recovery alone. Another thing that we can do is to wait. What do you mean wait? Well, I mean, most urges for anything are short-lived. They'll last approximately 15 to 20 to 30 minutes. And even that short amount of time can seem like an eternity. I know that. I realize that. But if we keep ourselves busy or we distract ourselves with something else that's positive, those feelings will diminish. They'll quickly go away. So like, take a 30-minute walk. Read positive material. Listen to different good positive music. Those things can be very helpful to you. Take it a little at a time. So many times we think that it's got to happen instantaneous, our recovery. And so it is with the way it is with mental relapse. We think it should be instant, and we don't think about any of those things again. So I would ask you to stop thinking that whether or not, I don't even think about whether abstinence should be forever. We know it should, but don't focus on it. Don't dwell on it. So just for now, let's try to take it moment by moment. Forget day at a time. Let's take it a moment at a time. This is a great time for us to start to be productive and take some time to focus on ourselves. Again, use the relaxation techniques that I talked about. That might be meditation, that might be breathing techniques. It can be a lot of things, but the relaxation is extremely important when it comes to relapse prevention. When we're tense, a lot of times bad things happen. Relaxation techniques help us reduce tension. It helps us reduce irritability, our cravings, our anger, and our anxiety. And when we relax, we'll be more open to change. If we don't take these steps to stop the cycle, suddenly we're going to end up in stage 3. Stage 3 is the actual physical relapse. If we don't take the time to acknowledge and address the symptoms from the emotional relapse and the mental relapse, it won't be long until we're down the path of the physical, the actual act of relapsing. That is when we actually include the acts of whether it is drinking the alcohol or doing the drugs or any of the other addictive behaviors that keep us from being what we want to be, what we've been striving to be, and what we've worked hard at becoming. The key, understand this, hear me now. The key, even if you do get to this point of physical relapse and you relapse, understand that doesn't mean it's forever. That doesn't mean that suddenly everything good you've ever done is wiped away. It doesn't mean that, but what it does mean, when hopefully before you get here, that you immediately reach out for help. You got to be ready to do, all of us got to be ready to do whatever it takes to stop this vicious cycle of addiction before it's too late. We read about it all the time. For some, it's too late, and we don't want to go there. Understand this, my friends. Help us out there. Whether we've reached physical relapse or not, if we find ourselves in any of these 3 phases, emotional, mental, or physical relapse, get help. Let me say this in the only way that I know how, because I want to say it with love. Get over yourself and get over the embarrassment, the guilt, the shame, because we've all been there at some point, to some level. Guys, we're all in this together. And we've made a commitment to one another to help each other, to be there for each other. And crazy as it sounds, we can see how much your recovery means to you. We know that. And we'll know even more how much your recovery means to you if you reach out. There's a couple of verses that I want to end up with that come to mind when it comes to reaching out. The first one comes from 1 Thessalonians 5:11, and it says this, and this is why you reach out, and this is why we reach back out when somebody reaches out to us. 1 Thessalonians 5:11 says this, so encourage each other and build each other up, just as you are already doing. Guys, I have watched so many of you. You're at that point where you want so much for yourself to be better, to be whole, to be healed, to be renewed. And you want that for others as well. So you're already wanting that. So why would we not want that for you as well? So absolutely encourage each other. Second one comes from Proverbs. Proverbs is like my book of life. It's like the playbook for me. I love Proverbs. And this comes from Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6. Sometimes you can't trust yourself. I can't trust myself sometimes. And there are days when I can't trust anybody else. But there's one person that we can all trust that never changes, and that's God. So this one says to us, trust in the Lord. But it tells us how. And that's the part that we don't do very well. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't depend on your own understanding, because we don't understand. Don't depend on your own understanding. Seek His will in all that we do. And He will show us which path to take. Which path to take? You know, last week we were talking about, or a few weeks ago, we were talking about crossroads. We're so many times daily at a crossroads in our life. And we don't know which road to take. This kind of speaks that to me. Seek His will in all that we do. And He will show us which path to take. And the last one I'll leave with you is so important to me, and it's in Ecclesiastes 4, verses 9 and 10. And this is why we reach out, guys. This is why we quit doing it on our own or thinking we can do it on our own. Because it says this, two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. This is work. Recovery is work, guys. It's not easy. For if either of them falls, the one will lift up his companion. But woe to the one who falls when there is not another to lift him up. We want to have somebody in our corner. Friends and neighbors, I'm here to tell you that we here at Renew are in your corner. I expect you to reach out. I want you to reach out. We need to reach out. There are times when I need to be reaching out because I'm no different than you. There are those days when I feel like I'm falling off the cliff. And I sometimes, like you, try to do it myself. But this tells me that two are better than one. I need to be reaching out. So the next time I come to talk to you, I'm going to be bringing you a next in a series about relapse prevention and how we think impacts how we act. But until next time, I need you to understand that I love you, but God loves you so much more. Remember, please, to like and share our page so that others may hear the words that they need to hear. So easy. Renew Recovery Community. Share it, like it. Until next time, God bless. Good night.